Hello and welcome to Racers Now, where in this video we're taking an anti-post look at the Champions Day, which takes place at Ascot on Saturday, October the 18th. The unofficial end to the British flat season, the official end to the Racers Now flat season from a tipping basis, where SD is by far and away beating me, and I'm going to owe him another 50 quid. But Champions Day generally presents me with an annual paradox as a flat racing lover, because it is officially the best day of the British flat season, with 5 Group 1s back-to-back on the same day. But without any doubt, a day that I approach from a betting perspective with trepidation. It's the end of a long season for a lot of horses. It's in the middle of October. You get the ground question marks that come with that space in the calendar. It's just 2 weeks after ARC weekend, so I tread carefully from an anti-post perspective with a lot of the horses that we're going to be talking about in this video. Will they run? Won't they run? And also tread carefully on the day, because with those factors, end of a long season, potential soft ground, although maybe not this year, it does lend itself to some shock results, some underperforming favourites, as we have seen littered throughout this day in recent years. There was a 40-1 winner of the Champion Stakes last year in Ammat, for example. The Champions Day ground, as ever, as happens every year at this period, becomes a major talking point. It is in the middle of October after all, as I've mentioned, and they do have a contingency option of running the Champions Day as a whole on the inner jumps track for those races taking place on the round track. That is if heavy appears in the description come Thursday at the 48-hour declaration stage, although that looks unlikely this year. We are in the midst of an unusually dry October. We had the Sun Chariot at Newmarket ran on good to firm ground last week. We've got the Cesarewitz this weekend, which looks set to be run on similarly quick ground for this time of year. So I am looking at Champions Day at the moment from a good ground perspective, or an assumption of good ground. Maybe a dangerous assumption, but there really isn't much sign of rain and hasn't been throughout the whole of October yet. There's 2 significant changes this year on Champions Day. The Long Distance Cup has been upgraded to a Group 1 for the first time, and rightly so. That's been run as a Group 2 since the inception of Champions Day back in 2011, I think that was. So that's 5 Group 1s. All of the championship races, if you like, are now Group 1 racers. That's good. We've still got the Balmoral handicap at the end of the card, mile handicap there. But a 7th race has been added, a 250 grand 2-year-old conditions race over 6 furlongs. There's no early entries for that race yet, the 2-year-old race. But it feels to me like a sales type of race rather than a big pot for genuine top-level 2-year-olds to compete in. I can't see the likes of the Middle Park and the Cheveley Park winners or runners coming to run in this 2-year-old race on Champions Day. I might be wrong, but I think it's going to be a big field and have more of a Doncaster salesy type feel to it. That'd be my opinion, but there is 250 grand in the prize pot there. On the first Group 1 of the day then on Champions Day, that is the Long Distance Cup. And this is where we have the shortest price favourite in the anti-post markets at the moment. And that's Trawlerman, who's 4-6. And for good reason, to be fair. He's the winner of the Long Distance Cup, this very race in 2023. He's unbeaten in 3 runs on British soil this year. That includes the Gold Cup at the Royal Meeting. So he is head and shoulders above his counterparts on these shores. From a British perspective, Trawlerman is definitely the leader of the pack in the staying division. It's just a question of what Aidan O'Brien might run. Now, we might pose that question for every race that we're going to look at in this video, as usual. But he does have Goodwood Cup and St. Leger winner Scandinavia in there. He would, of course, be a worthy opponent to Trawlerman, and could cause Trawlerman to drift from that 4-6. But it's just a big question mark over if Scandinavia is going to run. There's some anti-post books that haven't even got Scandinavia priced up at all, although he is showing in the Racing Post, for example, to be fair. So it looks like we're going to be left with the likes of Illinois, who hasn't cut it this year as a stayer from Aidan O'Brien's team. Jan Bruegel, who, let's not forget, did win the St. Leger last year, and should have been campaigned as a stayer this year, but hasn't been. So it does look like Trawlerman's to lose at the moment, on the assumption that Scandinavia might not run, but it does still appear in some of the lists. There's a French horse in there that I could see going off shorter. This is Sabayan. He'll have to show that he gets the trip, because he's never been over this far. But he did win a Group 1 over in Germany last time, so he might be of interest for the Henri Francis Graffard yard, who are red hot at the moment. So keep an eye on Sabayan. I can see him possibly going off shorter, but no bet in the long distance cup at this stage. Onto the sprint race, there's definitely a bet in here for me. The Champion Sprint Stakes, the usual cliches are applicable here regarding top-level UK sprint division. There's just no standout star. You've heard that cliche 100 times, but never more so apt than when discussing the Champion Sprint Stakes, because you're going to get a big field, end of season, possible soft ground, although maybe not this year, etc. It gives us the Sprint Stakes has a 10-year average winning SP of over 15 to 1. That tells you basically all you need to know. I think in that time we've had 33, 28, etc., etc. It does throw up a result or three. Let's put it that way. The Wafnan boys have got 3 of the top 5 in the market here in this Sprint Stakes. They've got Lazat in there, who has got single-handedly the best single piece of standout form. He won the Jubilee Stakes over course and distance in June. Not as good since. Kind of Blue won this race last year and has taken ages, 4 starts actually, to steadily come to the boil this year. Might be doing so at the right time in regards to this race. And Flora of Bermuda, who was 3rd last year in this race, continues to run with credit wherever she runs, nearly every time. So James Doyle will have a tough decision to make if picking between those 3. Maybe you could see 2 of them entered or declared, but they all come from 3 different yards. So maybe all 3 of the Wafnan sprinters may well be declared on next Thursday. Maybe this is after the Lord Mayor's show. I can take that criticism. But given that she won the July Cup at 66 to 1 and I didn't have a penny on, maybe it is after the Lord Mayor's show. But no half measures looks massively overpriced to me here. Really, really does. I think she represents value. She's 66 to 1. She's a bet for me. I thought she was hampered at a key point in the Sprint Cup. If you watch that one back, she was drawn high. It was a high draw race. We're going to come on to that. But no half measures, was hampered at a key point there if you go back and watch that replay. And let's remember, that was only her second start. That was her first start and only start since winning the July Cup at 66 to 1. Now, yes, you can say 66 to 1, wow, the biggest price of a Group 1 winner ever in this country. But I don't think that was a fluke. I thought she won that fair and square. Second that day was Big Mojo. She kind of raced on her own, no half measures there that day at Newmarket. Big Mojo was second. He's since won the Sprint Cup, and he's around 8 to 1 for this Champion Sprint Stakes. And no half measures. The July Cup win was on quick ground. The Haydock run, or the Sprint Cup at Haydock, was run on officially good ground, but a track record, so probably a bit quicker than the official description of good there. And connections of no half measures have had her down as wanting, or should be better on softer ground. Now, again, not saying it's going to be soft at Ascot next week, but it certainly isn't going to be the middle of July, good to firm ground. Let's put it that way. I thought she won that July Cup fair and square. If you're willing and happy to put a line through her run at Haydock, which I am, I can't have no half measures as being a bigger price in this race at the moment as we stand 10 days out from Champions Day. She's a bigger price than Run to Freedom, Quinault, Spycatcher, and even Inisherin to an extent. 66 to 1, no half measures, I think is a bet, and I'm putting her up as an official bet. For the record, Big Mojo, who was second behind no half measures in the July Cup, since won the Sprint Cup, is 8 to 1, just as a comparison there. The sprint race, the key bit of form going into this sprint Champion Sprint Stakes is the Sprint Cup itself. I know I've mentioned it with no half measures. Big Mojo won that, but 10 of the first 11 in that Sprint Cup at Haydock hold an entry here in the Champion Sprint Stakes. That Sprint Cup was borderline farcical and predictable situation where anything drawn low that day had absolutely no chance of winning. That was correctly called by my esteemed colleague SD in the lead up to that race on Races Now. Horses, the first 4 home were drawn 15, 19, 16 and 13. They filled the first 4 places. Anything drawn low had absolutely no chance. So do go back and have a look at the Sprint Cup when considering this Champions Day sprint. I'm on no half measures. 24 currently entered in the Fillies and Mare Stakes, but this is going to cut up definitely. It has to. 9 of them, of the 24, ran at Longchamp on Arc Weekend in a variety of races. Under the circumstances at the moment, I think Estrange is a fair 3-1 favourite. She missed the Arc at the 11th hour. Scope Dirty, I think she was due to run in the Arc a couple of weeks ago. But I wouldn't be in a rush to back her at 3-1 at the moment, given that she scoped Dirty 15 days before this race is set to take place. At full fitness, I think she would be a worthy favourite. She has been impressive. Earlier in the season on, at Haydock a couple of times, didn't like the very fast ground at York behind Minnie Hawk in the Yorkshire Oaks. So she's a fair contender here and an exciting horse generally, Estrange. We've not seen the best of her yet. Last year's winner, Kalpana, would be of interest if she was coming to defend her title, but it is a big if, given that she ran in the Arc just 2 weeks before this race on the 18th is set to take place. She was a respectable 7th there. Not sure if Kalpana is going to be running or not. Danielle is in there for John and Thady Gosden. I don't think she's a Group 1 horse. It would be nice for my John Gosden champion trainer bet. But yeah, I'm not sure that Danielle should be up to be winning Group 1s of this ilk. Wardar is the horse on the up, the unexposed one in this field, probably for my favourite or best, the one that I think is the best trainer in the country, Owen Burrows. But there is all sorts of water to pass under this anti-post bridge between now and October the 18th. It could well be a small field on the day. This Fillies and Mere Stakes. Aiden's got a load entered in there, Minnie Hawk being one of them, as you can see, scrolling along the bottom of your screen. She was a brilliant second in the Arc. Is she going to be running here 2 weeks later? I think not, but anything can happen with Aidan O'Brien, as he tells us all the time. They will make plans closer to the time. On to the two biggies then, if you like, the two big proper Group 1 races with plenty of history on the day. The first three races I've mentioned are pretty new races. The likes of SD, the dinosaur that he is, will tell you that their new race has crowbarred into an end-of-season finale at Ascot. But the QE2 stakes and the Champion Stakes, long established, formerly ran at Newmarket, for example. The first of those two on the day is the QE2. That's over a straight mile. The first port of call here is to talk about Delacroix. He's proven himself properly top class when winning the Irish Champion Stakes in September and shut up those who doubted him, like myself. The Ballydoyle star Delacroix has three options. Step back in trip for this QE2 over a straight mile. Stick to 1.25 miles in the Champion Stakes, although that looks a very deep renewal. Or retire as one of the most important stallions in years to Coolmore, as we are told by connections. Now, the logical option is 10 furlongs, but that's a very deep race. We're going to come on to that. The most exciting option is the QE2 Stakes, which is this race we're talking about here. He's in there at the moment at 130. That price will obviously change if he's confirmed. Do I think he'll run in the QE2? Probably not, but I'll definitely like him to. Field of Gold is set to make a much anticipated return here, following his 1-3 defeat in the Sussex Stakes earlier this year by a pacemaker that was riding in the same silks as him, 150-1 Kirat. But he come back. I think he had a problem after that. They reported a problem. He's been off there since early August. Has Field of Gold. He was bang exciting earlier in the season. Many think that he probably should have won the 2,000 guineas at Newmarket. He then went on to win the 2,000 guineas in Ireland in pretty exciting fashion. He was even better in the St. James's Palace Stakes at Royal Ascot. Electric, one of the best performances of the seasons there. So can he get back to that level against his elders? Hopefully he can. He's 9-4 in the market at the moment. I can see him going off shorter. That is for sure. Not that I'm backing him, but I can see him going off shorter than 9-4 if the likes of Delacroix comes out. Another one that I don't think will be running, but is up there at the moment, banging the market, is this Fallen Angel. She's run 3 Group 1s back-to-back recently against her own sex. I think her work for this year is already done. She apparently takes a lot out of herself in those races, and fair play. She won the Sun Chariot in good style on the 4th of October. So I can't see her running here. She might do. Rosalian's in there. He wants quick ground. Docklands clearly loves Ascot, but isn't great away from there. Factor Chevalier's usually ridden idiotically in this country, including in this race last year. Then we're into the realms of horses that simply aren't good enough, and plenty of them will come out of this QE2 Monday. I would very much like Delacroix to run, but I think that's unlikely. So this is another race that I think is going to cut up. Never So Brave is the one I'm really interested in, and I'm putting him up as a bet. He got his Group 1 win last time at York in their new Group 1, the City of York Stakes, and stepping back up to 1 mile looks the perfect spot for him here. He's already proven at Ascot winning this year. in a handicap. I think he won a handicap earlier this year at Ascot, so he's already proven there on that straight track. He'll have to improve again. And he could well do. I think he definitely can. But there is question marks over Field of Gold. His recovery from setback. Is his form good enough from earlier in the season? Although he was visually impressive, was he beating much against his own generation, Field of Gold? Delacroix, will he participate? Question mark there. And the question marks over the others, as I've outlined above, Fallen Angel, Rosalian, etc. I do think Never So Brave is a bet at 12-1. I can see him going off shorter. That's a 1-point anti-post win at 12-1. Fingers crossed. On to what some may call, or many will call, the main event then on Champions Day, the Champion Stakes itself. Just the £737,000 to the winner of the Champion Stakes. Delacroix is a talking point again. He's priced between 5 and 8-1. But with or without Delacroix, this should be an absolute belter. We've got Ombudsman in there. He's won 2 10-furlong Group 1s in the UK this year, including the Juddmonte, including the Prince of Wales at Royal Ascot. Calandagan is officially the best horse in Europe. He ran in the King George and won that really impressively in July. We've not seen him since. Almaquam beat Ombudsman earlier this year at Sandown and has threatened to be a top-class horse for quite a while. This could be his coming out party. Plus, the well overdue possible return, I note, there's been many a false dawn, possible return of Economics, who won the Irish Champion last year. So it really is a champions lineup for a champions race. Then you've got other horses in there as well, like Almeric, Pride of Arras, who have been on the big improve recently, although not quite at the top level yet. They'll be interesting runners as well. So nothing stand out at this stage from an anti-post perspective in the Champion Stakes, but one that I'm really, really looking forward to. You should be too, and I'll be monitoring throughout the week. So 2 bets for me, no half measures, 66-1 in the sprint. I think that is way too big, 66-1 should be better on softer ground. It's not going to be very soft, but it certainly isn't going to be good to firm like it was in the height of the summer. And Never So Brave, who I think continues to improve. He's had a stellar season, and that QE2 is going to cut up. And even those that run, like Field of Gold, although he might be a champion, there is some question marks over how good he actually is. So, Never So Brave and no half measures for me. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know in the comments who you fancy for Champions Day. And there is still all sorts to look forward to as we cling on to the rest of the flat season here on Racers Now. Thanks for tuning in.